you were out of the spotlight, and have your political views remained the same since 2017?
Yes, basically I'm the same person. I still believe in devolution. I believe in good governance. And I also believe in a better arrangement of the political arena.
And what would that be?
I will believe that this country does not require a presidential system per se. There should be a mix between presidential system and a parliamentary system of government. I also believe that there must be strong devolved systems that are able to deliver development down to the villages of this country.
And we'll talk about that when we look at what is being proposed in terms of constitution review of some kind. But when you talk about a change in the political system, you know, one would think 2022 is next year if you're to take, you know, the political ongoings at face value. Do you think we are over politicking? Some have accused the deputy president of, you know, starting off way too early with his ambitions. Is this the time to talk 22?
This is not the time, and it's very strange because he's the only one talking it. The president isn't, the prime minister, the former prime minister isn't, Kalonzo Musyoka isn't, Mudavadi isn't, all the other players aren't.
Except Raila Odinga, who recently talked about a tsunami coming to wipe Tanga off pretty much the face of the earth.
Well, but he has not been as active as the deputy president. And basically, I'm in agreement with what the president said just after the elections, that in spite of the dissatisfaction with the way the elections were conducted, we needed to give Kenyans peace. We needed to allow Kenyans to develop. We need to allow children to grow. We need to allow them to go to school. We must not participate in events that can lead to the loss of children like baby Pendo. Remember what happened to her. We really can't be doing those sort of things after every election. I think handshake is the way forward. Every time after the elections, I would like to see contestants shaking their hands and saying, go on, because they are still citizens of this country. We owe it to posterity. Yeah,
and I mean, you can say that because you actually did give Honorable the late Laboso that courtesy and let her lead, and you, after a ferocious fight for Bomet. But having said that, you seem to be making political moves yourself, especially your rekindling, if you like, of affections with Gideon Moi. So aren't you playing politics yourself?
No, Gideon Moi is an age mate. He's been a colleague, and we've known one another for very many years. And we have no political agenda at the moment.
You have also been quoted recently as saying that the Rift Valley should be allowed to democratize. You do not want, quote, leaders imposed on you.
Yes.
That certainly is politics.
Yes. What is happening in Rift Valley, what has been happening is that there has been a lot of imposition of leaders. That is why if you look at the general landscape, it is devoid of self-made political leaders. Most of them are just basically swept onto the scene. Once they are there, most of them are basically clueless.
Who's imposing them on the people of the Rift Valley?
There is a political status quo that tends to push in individuals.
And who are the members of the political status quo?
I don't have to name them.
This is punchline, you certainly do. You're referring to the deputy president, aren't you?
They are well known on the political arena.
You're saying the deputy president has positioned his people in the Rift Valley and imposed them on the will of the average citizen.
Yes, that's my view.
That is your view.
That's my view.
There's been a lot of talk about strength in numbers, and nobody likes it, tyranny of numbers. And whenever that conversation comes up, it's about Central and the Rift Valley as well. And specifically in the Rift Valley, we saw also in recent days, you know, this kind of talk around, you know, let's not split our vote. The region has traditionally voted, you know, as a bloc. Do you see that your efforts and your call for democratization really will become the contest between possibly Gideon Moi and the deputy president in terms of who is the supremo of the region?
I think the main issue that we should be driving is how to bring agenda that is based on policies, onto the table. And we must move slowly away from the tribal arithmetic. I have never quite agreed with the so-called tyranny of numbers, because what are you telling the others? What will happen to the El Molo? What will happen to the Taita? What will happen to the Maasai? If every other time is a question of the tyranny of numbers.
Right.
The Mount Kenya and Rift Valley cannot continue to load over Kenyans in that manner. No. We want to see leaders that have an agenda for the rest of the republic, that are going to ensure that there is proper development, that there is proper freedom, that the Bill of Rights is being respected, that the separation of powers is respected. As of now, the way I see the way the judiciary is moving is a pale shadow of itself when it was being headed by Mutunga.
How do you
is slowly playing ball
with the executive.
With the executive.
What makes you say that?
I have seen a lot of cases being refused hearing. Recently, we saw, for example, the one of Mao. They went, they have not been heard for the last 2 months. And yet this is a very critical agenda that deals with the human rights, that deal with basic, the Bill of Rights. But no one is listening to them.
And we'll talk about the Mao, because you've been very vocal on it. But just as we quickly finish up on the politics of the region. So you're saying you're not in alliance with Gideon Moi and with KANU. CCM is what?
CCM is a political party like KANU. KANU is a political party.
So there have been no talks to see how they can work together come 2022? We
have not had any specific structured talks between Chama cha Mashinani and the KANU.
But you remain firmly in NASA?
NASA was an arrangement up to 2017. Up to that election. After the election, I don't think there is still NASA.
We hosted Musalia Mudavadi the other day, and he said that, according to your agreement, is it 3 parties would have to formally pull out for NASA, not for that coalition agreement to cease. So is CCM planning to formally pull out of NASA?
Not exactly that. We've not discussed those issues. We are thinking that the main agenda for NASA was for winning the 2017 elections. After that, there is no joint agenda to be pushed for 5 years. There was an agenda if we were in government, if we won the elections. Then we had a clear roadmap. Without that, then we put that on hold. We are simply basically saying that we should play the role of the official opposition.
And that's not the role that is seemingly being played, other than for Musalia Mudavadi, who has even come out and said he's the official leader of the opposition because of the handshake arrangement, which has seen both the former Prime Minister and the former Vice President take on some sort of capacities granted to them by the executive. So in your understanding, if NASA was supposed to play the leader of the official opposition, is that now Mudavadi's task? Is that yours?
You see, essentially that should be Raila Odinga's. And I've kept saying that, that in my own view, the handshake did not, in my view, envisage a situation in which Raila Odinga would cease to be the official leader of the opposition. He should have remained there, because there is a clear role for the official leader of the opposition. But there we are with the deficiencies of this constitution, because the leader of opposition is outside parliament. So there is no way he can even exercise that particular oversight role, because he's not even in control of his own troops. His troops can be raided in parliament. And that's why I've always believed that we made a mistake there. We should have allowed the leader of the opposition to be in parliament. And maybe created a threshold upon which once a party attains, it ought to be, its leader ought to be in parliament, so that the leaders in parliament, the parliamentarians, can be guided. Most of them are first-timers.
So you wouldn't go to the extent of sort of blaming him and saying it is because...
I can't blame him.
You think it's a function of the constitution?
I think it is a structural problem which we inbuilt into this constitution that locks Raila Odinga outside the main political arena. Because you can't drive a bus from the outside. You have to be inside, for you to drive your bus. But here is a constitution that ensures that the driver of the official opposition bus is actually outside the bus. Then how will he keeps winking and shouting at the guy inside, please drive it this way, drive it that way, telling Buddy. And Buddy maybe is not interested.
And, fine. So NASA is not, do you think, just to conclude it, that in 2022, there may be the possibility of still the same parties coming together under the same banner, or do you see things changing? Is the handshake changing political realignment?
As usual, every election is never the same as the previous election. I expect those who are in Jubilee to probably join up with those who are in the opposition. Those who are in the opposition might join up with those who are in
And
Jubilee.
who will you join with?
No, that's neither here nor there right now. We are waiting to see, and we will want to look at the political agenda. But I think that will be clear once we agree on the format of the constitution that
you want, and we'll talk about the constitution very soon. Now, what do you think of the Deputy President's ambitions, though? Is he a man who you believe is fit to lead?
Well, I would be judgmental, and I would probably be unfair to him, because we are not contesting a similar seat with him. The point is that Kenyans can judge him from what he has been doing.
But you've worked with him closely, not just as a leader in your region.
I disagreed with him on a number of issues, including in which he insists on having his way on everything. In my view, there ought to be a consultative way of leadership. What
do you mean by that, that he insists on having his view on everything?
Yeah, because I don't even know what exactly the view is. But every other time, I don't understand the basis of his arguments.
Like which argument?
Like, for example, when he says Kenyans should not be discussing constitutional changes right now. What does that mean? Okay. I thought Kenyans are free to discuss every issue, and everyone should bring forth his ideas. I would expect to see his ideas on the table.
So when you hear people say, particularly from your region, that the handshake and the BBI have been designed to lock the Deputy President out of office?
No, that is just being extremely myopic, because...
Myopic?
I think so. Come to think of it, what is the problem with the handshake? What is the problem when Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta agree that they were very fierce contestants, but for the sake of this country, they agree, let's move on. And they listed 9 issues. And the 9 issues were what we need to sort out to fix the problems we have in Kenya. When you talk about building bridges, it means working together, building bridges, making sure that there is no valley between you and me. You see what was happening. We were developing in 2017 what actually led us to almost to the abyss in 2007. That look, those who voted for Raila Odinga want to fight with those who voted for Uhuru Kenyatta. Is that the country we want? Do we have to call in Kofi Annan every other time, any other Kofi Annan, if the other Kofi Annan isn't there? Do we have to call outside to come and sort out our problems? In my view, it is no. And in my view, Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta did the right thing.
What seat are you running for? Governor?
I'm yet to decide.
Okay, we'll see if you've decided by the end of this program. Let's move on to the Masai Mara, and you've been involved in negotiations regarding, attempts to resolve the issues, the dispute, I should say, around the Masai Mara for the last 10 years. Why is it that we have not reached a solution?
We have not reached a solution because every other time a solution is being pushed through from the top. And I have been against that. I would like a situation in which there is clear discussion and engagement between government and the local community on resolving the problem. And that is through the leadership, both the Narok leadership and those from around the region. We should involve both the leaders in Narok, Kericho, Bomet, and Nakuru, and agree on how to resolve the matter.
You're saying in the last 10 years there has been no sit down between community and government to reach a decision?
There has been none.
And some would say that it isn't, that there isn't even need to have that kind of discussion, because the Masai Mara is clearly a critical ecological area and is public land and therefore is a preserve of government.
If it is critical, that is all the more reason that the people should be convinced that it's a critical water catchment area. Remember, when we are discussing now the question of Masai Mara, Masai Mara is not government land. It is not under the Kenya Forest Service. It is not gazetted as a forest. There are 22 blocks which the water towers is talking about. Of the 22, only 21 are gazetted for protection by government. The number 22 is Masai Mao, which actually is trust land for settlement. Trust land is for settlement. It is not trust land to become a forest. Where is that law? Where is it in the legal framework of this country?
You know, and you've said that in an interview, but you know, the 2009 Prime Minister's task force, the one that led to the fallout between you and Raila Odinga, then his task force on the Mao, noted that there's a distinct